My name is Nicolas Friederici. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Oxford Internet Institute, also a research group lead at the Humboldt Institute for Internet and Society in Berlin. And I study how economic development happens in the digital age, specifically in low-income countries that are very different from places like Silicon Valley and Berlin, such as in Africa. This was the focus of my recent research. The digital revolution, I think especially the global digital revolution, is a fundamental shift in the economy and economic development that has happened. And it's basically the internet and all the technology that's on top of it, what we often call digital infrastructure, that has made that happen. So the first time in human history we have a technology that connects half of the population on the planet on the same technological network. In principle, any internet user anywhere in the world can access any other internet user's device and hardware through the internet. So this immense new connectivity has created new modes of value creation, of value capture. That has shifted how economic development works, also how it is distributed. So what we find particularly fascinating is how access has basically democratized and spread around the world. We have half of the world's population now connected, but value capture, kind of having a business model where you as a company make money off of digital technologies is very geographically concentrated. Clearly in Silicon Valley, and then in some cities in the global north, some production centers in Asia. And this is basically what we grapple with in our research, that there is a global digital revolution, yes, but only few actors in few places are really benefiting from it in a strong way. Digital entrepreneurship is a new and I think interesting concept. It's getting better and better defined in the academic literature, also in the popular literature. I think it's important to distinguish whether enterprises just use digital technologies in their work in any kind of way, or whether they use them in a more intense way, that is to create value and to capture value. So I think there are distinct ways in which enterprises can use digital technologies in their business models and integrate them there. And this is basically how we define that. So say you are a Facebook, you are making use of the network effect capabilities of digital technologies in your business model. You connect users, they create content independently in a distributed fashion. That's something that's only possible with digital technologies. So it's a particular kind of value creation and value capture process that defines it for us. Africa traditionally has been defined by poverty, by resource extraction. The economists, I think, in the early 2000s called it the hopeless continent. You have so many ingrained issues, infrastructure challenges, corruption challenges, and so forth. And this has also very much marked the image of Africa. And I think around the 2010s, when submarine fiber optic cables connected Africa to the global digital system, a huge hope came about and inspired people that digital technologies and being globally connected through the internet would allow Africa to escape this situation of dependence, of being a resource extraction place. And so this notion of leapfrogging came about, that Africa could leapfrog economic stages. And I think digital entrepreneurship is now the most recent a buzzword and phenomenon to inspire people and to catch people's imagination. Because now we're moving basically from digital access and digital consumption of products like Facebook and WhatsApp and so forth to digital production. So now it's supposed to be Africans that are creating the enterprises, creating the jobs, being more productive. And this is, I think, what has inspired the hope and the aspiration around digital entrepreneurship. So economic actors are diverse, right? And I think this is one of the challenges for the global south and low and middle income countries, that a lot of the actors are small, are informal, are maybe individuals, are freelancers. So there is also a lot of work, especially from my colleagues at the Oxford Internet Institute as well, how freelancers, how individuals can make money using the internet. But I think what we've seen is that only businesses using these specific digital business models, these opportunities to capture value that digital technologies present them with, can make money and create jobs and create this kind of revenue in a significant way. I mean, there's a reason why the big companies, the GAFAMs, the Google, the Alphabets, the Facebooks, have become these role models, because their valuations have mushroomed, they've made billions of dollars. And I think this is what the Global South is looking to achieve as well, but it just hasn't happened yet. The role of policy in Africa to enable digital entrepreneurship is a complicated one. It's not obvious. First of all, it depends on, it varies from country to country. Clearly some countries have more effective governments than others, more effective government agencies than others. Also, there's different ideologies and goals. In some countries, ICTs and digital technologies are just under priority. In other countries, they're the main development agenda that is used. So this diversity is something to acknowledge. And then what exactly to do is a challenging question. I think everyone agrees that this enabling environment, this notion of an enabling environment is important and essential. So if it takes you months to even register a business, then that's not a good thing. If the infrastructure in terms of broadband internet is just so poor that there's no connectivity at all, then that's not a good thing. But I think beyond this enabling environment notion, it's challenging because as soon as the government intervenes, things get political. There's maybe an attempt to find photo ops and things that sell very well rather than do what's right. Things like tech parks, things like innovation hubs, they have worked sometimes in some contexts, but they're not a silver bullet. You need the entrepreneurs to run these things, or you need to at least include them. And you need, I guess, the right people and the right capacity to do this. I think there have been attempts of this window dressing and looking for specific intervention to solve these problems for the government to basically enter the scene, and that hasn't worked. I don't see a single type of intervention that has worked best. I think the goal shouldn't be to catch up with the global north. I think this is exactly the problem in some of the discourse and some of the hopes that policymakers and some development organizations have put forward. We have Silicon Valley as this role model, as this thing that everyone aspires to be, and that puts us off track. That lets us miss what would actually work for these African enterprises. And many entrepreneurs have actually seen this a few years ago and basically have stopped listening to the blogs, to the development organizations, and just did what worked in their context. And I think now we're slowly starting to see those business models to succeed and really thrive. So it's basically escaping Silicon Valley's shadow here and doing something different that works in that context. The contribution to the global economy of these businesses in Africa is essential, and I think is something that was taken for granted initially. Again, with this hope that with digital technologies we're globally connected, there's global leveling, and that hasn't happened. So I think what has happened over the last years is that these businesses have contributed to the local economy. So they've designed solutions that work in local contexts. They've taken the digital technologies that have become available, adapted them with business model innovation, with process innovation, and solve local problems. I think integrating into the global digital economy is the next step. And it's going to be essential because if you continue to focus on local problems and local solutions, that's also going to be your market threshold. If you're in a small country where users don't have a high willingness to pay, where there's not a big market, then your business can only grow so far. My favorite example of an enterprise where a lot of learning has happened to then ultimately come up with a business model or even a whole new strategy template that I think could be transformative for a number of countries in Africa is a company called Quello Center in Ghana. So these are two entrepreneurs who I actually met during my first visit to Ghana for my dissertation, and they were coders at the time. So they were pure software developers. And they thought, the technology is going to solve problems, and this is, and we software developers are the ones to figure this out, and the technology is what does this. And then basically they realized over time, well, we're producing technology here for clients that are also, in Accra, in the major city in Ghana, but we're not really solving any problem here. We're not really creating any value here. We need to actually, if we want to reach out and solve Ghana's development problems, we need to reach out to the farmers, the smallholder farmers, informal farmers that exist in the north of Ghana. And so it was basically through this outreach to their clients, and outreach now literally driving many hours to the north of Ghana from Accra, actually also staying there, sleeping over, etc., understanding how those livelihoods work, how those value chains work, that they then came up with a business model that I think is very unique. So what they're doing is basically they've set up not only an information system, but an entire logistics system that is powered by digital technologies across the north of Ghana, across smallholder farmers. So it starts with stock taking. So farmers may have certain produce in excess, not enough of something else, but they don't keep track of this, right? And then there's this notion that everyone in Africa has a phone. No, that's not true. These farmers don't. So you need to actually have an agent in each and every village that actually talks to the farmers every day or every other day and takes up these stock levels. Then on the other side of the supply chain, there's the big food producers, there's the Nestlés, the Guinnesses, that would like to have that produce, but they have no idea where it is. They also don't have the infrastructure there. It's just not efficient, cost efficient for them to do this because they usually have very expensive processes. So AgroCenter solved that as well. So it's basically aggregating the demand and the supply across an entire region, and then using digital technologies to track these things and basically to match that. So it's more than just information, but figuring out the entire logistics system, including analog structures, right? There's agents, there's trucks, there's human interface to connect to the farmers. The digital revolution, it's not something that you could opt out of. And I think to make your country, your city, your enterprise future-proof, and to be part of the global value system and economic system, a given country, a given enterprise is required to use digital technologies and partake in that. And I think this inequality question is something that is one that looms very large. Because I think value creation in absolute terms and capture also is rising around the world, yes, but it's just rising in Silicon Valley and some of those cities much more quickly. And so digital technologies and digital platform business models in particular, I think have become a net contributor to inequality. And at some point, some levels of inequality are not sustainable anymore. And I think this is why it's essential to look at how digital business models could also be used in low and middle income countries to have a more equitable or inclusive type economic development and growth.